Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. This podcast covers the national champions. Be back here in just a sec with the Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter. Got a great show for you today. We are going to look at the last remaining vestiges of the 2026 class, who Ohio State is in the mix for. There's three guys that you've heard about pretty much, and we'll discuss them. Then we're going to dive into who is coming for the Texas game as we turn the page and go forward. And then we've got a great player to feature for you today, and that is Jalen Brewster. Those of you should know him from talking last week. He is, if not the best defensive lineman in the country, he is in the mix. But first, I've got to let you know about our great new sponsor, and that is Vuori. It's spelled Vuori, V-U-O-R-I, but pronounced Vuori. Tremendous clothing company, kind of athletic chic, very impressive, designed to look great beyond the gym, whether you're running errands, heading to the office, meeting up with friends, checking out the Buckeyes. I'm a fan of the performance jogger, great for stretching and lounging, stylish. And you've got the comfort of the fabric, lightweight, relaxed fit, moisture wicking, 4-way performance stretch. And Vuori is making an investment in your happiness. For our listeners at Bucknuts, 20% off your first purchase. Go to vuori.com, VUORI.com/Bucknuts. 20% off your first purchase. If you order more than $75 and are in the U.S., free shipping, free returns. All right. Nothing comes free with these guys. The Dean, Bill Kurelic, and Mark Porter, who is broadcasting from a cloud or trying to get it down there. There we go. Here's how we're going to do this. We're going to start by kind of finishing off the idea of 2026, though we will discuss how it could actually flip back. That said, Bill, Bralan Womack, Darius Gray, and Savion are the only top 60 prospects, according to the top 247, that have yet to commit in the class of 2026. Ohio State is mentioned as at least warm on all three. We know the truth, though. And they are going to be committing on Womack August 22nd, Gray the 21st, Hyder the 19th. We are going to start in inverse chronological order here with Bralan Womack, because though all are warm, he is the only one with a crystal ball rolled towards the great city of Columbus. So can you kind of take us through Bralan Womack, Darius Gray, and Savion Hyder as we finish it off here?
Well, you mentioned starting, I think, with Bralan Womack. He is announcing on August 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the 247 Sports YouTube channel and CBS. So right here on our network, August 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Ohio State, Auburn, Florida, Texas A&M. That's his Final Four. That's been his Final Four. We're still over 2 weeks out from that date, but I don't think that's going to change as far as the finalists. You never know. Again, I would never say never in recruiting, but I think those four will be his finalists come his announcement date. I continue to think it's Ohio State or Auburn, and as of things right now, I continue to like Ohio State. But we all know that in this day and age of NIL and all that, anything can happen at the last minute. And we've seen that time and time again, not only Ohio State related, but just across the country. Guys get last minute offers that they can't turn down, and they take them. So, that's kind of the whole scenario right now with Womack. That's on August 21st. The other two, let's go with Savion Hyder, is on August 19th, as you mentioned, Dan. He has a Final Four of Ohio State, Michigan, Tennessee, and Georgia. I think he's a little more of a wild card, say, than Womack, where I think it's two schools. It wouldn't shock me if he went to Michigan, Tennessee, Georgia. It just wouldn't really shock me, any of those schools. Obviously, Ohio State would love to have him, but if I were picking right now, and I don't want to do the gun to my head thing, I don't like a gun to my head, as we've talked about in the past. But I'd go with the field versus Ohio State on that one. The third one is August 22nd. That is Darius Gray, the offensive lineman, who is, in my opinion, the number one offensive interior lineman in the country. He's got 5 schools. The other 2 guys have 4 schools. Gray has a Final 5, at least again at this point, it's a Final 5. Ohio State, Tennessee, LSU, Clemson, and South Carolina. He, too, will be announcing on the 247 Sports and CBS YouTube channel. So of the Final 3, we've got 2 of their announcements on our network, which is pretty nice. Of his 5, if I had to say right now, I'd probably go with LSU. But again, we're still 2 weeks out. We're over 2 weeks out from Darius Gray's announcement, and a lot can happen in the last 2 weeks. And a lot oftentimes happens in the last 24 to 48 hours, so we'll see. But again, I would probably go with LSU right now, although we saw what Tennessee was able to do with an offensive lineman and a big offer last year, so we'll see.
Mark, here's my question for you. It's kind of general. What do you hear from your cronies that are coaches and stuff about expectations for this season if things hypothetically go wrong for a certain school? So hypothetically, school has recruited great. Let's say they're ahead of Ohio State in the rankings and their coach gets fired. How does NIL figure into that? Is it going to be open season on these guys again? Do you get the sense Ohio State has a feeling that could happen? Where are you on, once the theoretically 26 is put to bed, the idea of it waking up?
I think it's definitely going to wake up, good and bad. We may lose somebody too. And just that's, this new landscape where I don't think that's a knock on anyone or anything. I think it's like you're saying. You wake up tomorrow morning and there's some new offer on the table that wasn't there before because another school's desperate or because of a change in coaching or whatever. I think right now you think every team is this rosy red path to victory. Everybody's got national championships, circled. Halfway through the season, reality hits. And when reality hits and recruits really get a strong dose of, this place isn't what I thought it was. This coach isn't what he made himself out to be. And they don't know that. During recruiting, all you get is the good news goes good news goes up, bad news you don't hear anything about. I think things will change. And players like this, I think are guys you're going to want to revisit. Like as we watch this podcast, there's certain guys we fall in love with. Hyder is a guy that we're going to follow wherever he commits. And the first time something goes bad there, everyone in the country is going to be after that kid again. Not just us, but I think there's players like that on this list. Womack's the best safety in the country. There's going to be a constant war. Whoever does sign him, I would be worried to the second he actually puts his pen to paper and actually does sign. And that's the new age we're in. We used to be in an age where we had tea leaves. I can't tell you tomorrow who's going to get offered something that's going to change their mind. And that's what it is. It used to be when you locked it in. Yeah, I fell in love with this place, like a real relationship, a marriage. I fell in love. Something would really have to go wrong for me to fall out of love before the wedding, right? Like, a year or two after the wedding, we meet each other. We know each other, just like you're saying, that's time to get out. But before the wedding, it's the honeymoon period. But that doesn't exist anymore in college football. The honeymoon period where you're in love and you're going to go there, that could be disrupted by any cute girl that walks by right now. And right now that cute girl is money. And I'm the most cynical person on the web right now, putting that out there, saying the quiet part out loud. But that's the cynical side of me that says, boy, I know we have guys on our team that we think are locked in, but next year after the season, they may be pulled by somewhere else to go somewhere else. I looked at the depth chart. And I looked at all the guys that are running 2, and I'm thinking, boy, if next year these guys aren't starters, there's a problem. Because some of the names I saw on that list, I'm like, this guy's due to get on the field. He really is. Like, he has the talent. I feel it. So I think we're just in an age right now where, pessimism and Debbie Downer, I don't want to be that guy. And you started off, you said there's going to be schools that tank and guys are going to go. And you're 100% right. 100% right. That's probably the biggest fear in this thing, where guys like Bill become irrelevant. Like we're saying, oh, we used to know where this guy. I talked to his dad over here on the side, and his dad told me secretly that this is what it was. And now that means nothing because it changes on a dime.
Bill, your thoughts. Let's say, hypothetically, a school ranked ahead of Ohio State that had guys they were interested in. Their season doesn't go as planned. You can look at No Way 87. Those of you playing at home in the chat has an example for you. If anybody can go look at your standard content now. Coaches on the hot seat. What if one of those hot seats burns up, Bill? Do you think Ohio State may be laying in the weeds for some elite players?
Oh, I don't think there's any question that they're going to monitor how the season goes. They always do that. They do a great job of keeping an eye on what's happening in the season and who might be on, as you put it, as you said it, Dan, the hot seat. No Way 87 brought up USC and Lincoln Riley. We've talked about that before on this show. USC had to do something. I mean, they have a lot of money invested in Lincoln Riley. So is it easier to use money in regards to recruits, or is it easier to find a new coach and do everything that's needed to finish off a contract from Lincoln Riley? I think it's easier, a whole lot easier, to use money to get recruits. But let's say that things don't go well at USC, as No Way 87 said, and they are piling up the losses and they are playing very poorly on defense. Could Luke Weifel be back in play? I'm sure Ohio State will keep monitoring that, because that was a back and forth thing that went down to the wire. And in the end, Weifel picked USC. But is it the end? No, he hasn't signed. So I think they will continue. There's no doubt in my mind they'll continue to monitor things. And if the situation presents itself where a coach is on the way out, and they have a player or recruit that Ohio State wants, Ohio State will absolutely look at that.
I'll just say this, and I fully grasp that I'm the publisher of Bucknuts, but I just think people are way too negative about the entire kit and caboodle here. I just think people need to be a little bit more optimistic. I know everyone thinks you get to win the national championship and then every single player wants to come play for you. Let's just see how it ends up. The calendar has been altered, like Mark said, and like Bill said, this could go on. So I'm not worried about it. They've also earned the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion, and I know people don't like it when I say that, but pretty sure they're the national champs last time I checked. All right. Last time I checked also, Bill, Mark, everyone needs a good pair of sunglasses, and that's why Gooder is the official sunglasses sponsor of this show. Stylish Sunnies, starting only $25 a pair. I've told everyone this many times because they're a repeat sponsor. Everybody's been to an Ohio State game with their sweet Varnays and the white wraparound. Woke up the next morning, they be gone. You spent $200 on glasses. Why in the first place, I don't know, but you did. And you're out $200 and you can't see. Gooder is where you go for that. Buy yourself 3 pairs for $75 like I did. Give them to your kids. 2 of them ended up in an ocean. That didn't matter because it was only $25. Yet they are lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized, no slip, no bounce, vibrant colors, sleek styles. There's a pair of Gooders for every personality and designed for both everyday wear and active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and more. Gooder is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping you can go to gooder.com, spelled like it sounds for real, GOODR.com/Bucknuts. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, go there, use code Bucknuts for free shipping. All right.
Hey Dan, can I look back real quick before we move on?
Sure.
Talking about coaches on hot seats and flips and all that. Ohio State's already been involved in 2 flips, and we haven't even started the season yet. One of them for Ohio State, one of them away from Ohio State. Obviously, Jameer Perez flipped to Ohio State from Florida, and then Jacob Weatherspoon flipped from Ohio State to North Carolina. So Ohio State gains Perez, they lose Weatherspoon. That's 2 flips already. There are absolutely, we're not even close to December and signing day and all that. There's going to be flips. Will any of them involve leaving or coming to Ohio State? Who knows? But I will guarantee you there will be big flips as we get into November and December. There always are.
And some things just don't change. I mean, teams that win and put their guys in the NFL consistently is what you want, guys who want that. And I talked about OKGs, our kind of guys yesterday. Those guys will make up the top part of the class, and we'll go from there. Speaking of which, Bill, we are now on to thinking about 27, 28, 29. Good Lord. It's, if you want to feel old, talk about recruiting. It's kind of a big game to start the season, Bill, visit-wise. Texas at Ohio State. Now, this is going to be discussed every time this comes up, so let's just go over that. We are fully aware the game starts at noon, and if you're coming from far away and you have a game on Friday, really at any time, it may be difficult for you to get here for the noon kickoff. I think we've all established that we think that's goofy and have angst towards Fox. However, we're not going to relitigate that right now. We are instead going to discuss who could be here for the Texas game, Bill. So you're starting to let that information roll out as you find it out. Who are some guys we can look forward to who are – you get all types for games like Texas. You'll get commitments. You'll get prospects. Who are some names we need to know?
Well, on Bucknuts yesterday, I posted an article mid-afternoon, I believe it was, on some guys. The article really focused on what I'm hearing, who's going to be at the Ohio State Texas game, that type of thing. So if you haven't seen that, if you're a VIP member, you can go to that article. Also today, I will have my first edition of my running list of recruits that are going to be at or planning to be at that Ohio State Texas game. Keep in mind, that game is still 3 weeks away, basically, a little over 3 weeks. So there's going to be a lot of additions, a lot of changes. Some guys think they're going and they'll find out, well, they can't make it. Their coach might call a practice or the flights don't work out. Whatever. There'll be some deletions, so to speak, and there'll be a number of guys. I've talked to a lot of guys in the last week alone that say, well, I'd like to get that game, but I just don't know right now. And a number of them have said, I don't know what my coach is going to do that weekend. Are we going to have a Saturday morning practice? Maybe. So there'll be a lot of changes, but you can look for that later today on Bucknuts. And for the time being, I'm going to hit some of the highlights. Let's start with the commitments because there are some highlights there. Blaine Bradford is planning to be at the game. He told me that yesterday. He plans to be at the Ohio State Texas game. And that's big. There continues to be some flip talk about him. Anytime you can get Blaine Bradford on the Ohio State campus, that is a very good thing. So he plans to be at the game. Another guy is interesting, Jordan Thomas. We talk about the distance and all. He's on the East Coast out in New Jersey. He is going to be, unless something changes, his plan right now is to be at the game. So Aaron Thomas is another one. We talk about distance. He's down there in the Phoenix, Arizona area. He plans to be at the game. So, of course, you have the Ohio guys that won't have a whole lot of problems making it the game. Although Sam Greer is playing an away game he is playing against Archbishop Spalding in Severn, Maryland, on August 30th. So he will not be at the game. Moving to some high points of the non-committed guys that have told me they're going to be at the game. A number of Ohioans are, not surprisingly, going to be at the game, including some offensive line targets. Kalel Johnson, KJ Johnson from Cincinnati Moeller, he's going to be at the game. Tells me he will be at the game. Kellen Weimer, another offensive lineman from Ohio that the Buckeyes have offered, plans to be at the game. Certainly, getting those two guys on campus is big. Other Ohio highlight guys planning to be at the game. Ronaldo Perez, the defensive end from Columbus Academy. He's been on campus a lot of times, especially for all those camps. He plans to be at the game. The number one, and I think Mark would agree with this, the number one guy in Ohio for the class of 2028, Jameer White, defensive lineman, plans to be at the game. Jordan Karhoff, the fine tight end at Columbus DeSales, plans to be at the game. And Lou, offensive lineman from Cincinnati Winton Woods. So those are some of the Ohio highlight guys. And Quay Ford is hoping to make it to the game. Offensive tackle that Ohio State offered, a really good player, is planning to make it up or hoping to make it up for the game. So, those are some of the highlight guys right now. Again, I'll have more on that and in the list of what I've got later today on Bucknuts.
Mark, based on what you heard of those names and what you know about Ohio guys you expect to emerge, give us a couple of names of the guys visiting that jump out to you there.
Yeah, the KJ Johnson, now that he's at Moeller, and how he'll affect the Pat O'Brien recruiting. I know we haven't offered him yet, but those are two of the best offensive tackles in the class with length. The Ohio guys, Ronaldo Perez, he got that USC offer back during the summer, and all of a sudden, he still went to the Ohio State camp 3 times during that offer. So that kind of tells me that that's the offer he wanted. So I'd definitely like seeing him at the Texas game. And you guys are right about the Texas game. You only get so many games like that on your schedule each year. And in this day and age, you try to capitalize those into recruiting advantages where you're saying they'll get some guys there and important guys, but boy, it's tough on the kids. It really is. And, I know that Saturday morning practices can be a quick film and a walk around the track and get out of there, but no kid likes to blow off their team for anything, and I think that aspect of this Saturday morning getting to games has always been something recruiting people have had to work through. And of course, Ohio head coaches understand the gravity and importance of games like this and excuse people.
I chuckled when Bill said Saturday morning practices, because both having been a very bad high school football player and then covered it, the earlier your practice is on Saturday, the bigger the fear the coaches have you going out Friday night. Let's just be honest. If you have 6 o'clock practice on Saturday morning, your coach thinks he's got some booze hounds in the house and is trying to make sure those dudes don't show up. And some of your boys would show up smelling like booze, and then if they were good, they didn't get in trouble. And if they weren't, they probably got reprimanded, but that's sports. All right, Bill, as I look at the schedule here, you could make an argument like this is going to be 1 versus 2, right? Ohio State, Texas. November 1st, Ohio State hosts Penn State. That could be 1-2. But guess what? Chances are very good that game is going to kick off at noon. So I was thinking about we could probably get the best of both worlds. And now that I look at maybe the UCLA game will be sexy enough on the 15th. That one I kind of hope starts at noon, though, so that UCLA has the jet lag for that one. Very hard to come east from west and play an early kickoff and be ready to rock. But, all right, we'll see. Let me read my last ad here, and then we're going to let you see one tremendous football player. Cornbread Hemp, you knew it was coming. It would not be a podcast without one of our best sponsors. And as Dave and I tell you every time, there's a reason they keep sponsoring this show, And it's because you guys keep purchasing cornbread hemp. So those of you who are anti, you need to deal with your brethren, because we're here to just give the people what they want. Healthy Happy Hour, America's first USDA organic THC edible, 10 milligrams per gummy. As Mark Porter will tell you, just the right dose, no synthetic ingredients, Farm Bill compliant, and legal for adults over 21. Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners, what a surprise. They like you guys, so they got a deal. 30% off your first order. Use promo code Bucknuts. Go to cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a happier, healthy hour. All right. Now, if you guys were here last week, you know we talked about Jalen Brewster. And I went through a very detailed rigmarole on how the Dallas Cowboys are going to help us get Jalen Brewster on the team. That's because his dad attended Wyoming High School in Cincinnati then Ball State. Then he was a 7th-round draft pick of your Dallas Cowboys. Did not make the team, got hurt. But the Brewsters remained in Dallas, Cedar Hill High School. And now you have Jalen Brewster. So I always like to see the ties. For example, if you're trying to recruit an Ohio kid whose family's from Ohio and he wants to go to Ohio State, you are up a creek on that one. The Brewsters are not Ohio natives to start, so I think that gives us a shot. Bill, please introduce him as a recruit, interest, visit schedule, where you think he fits in, and who else could be the bigger threats. And then Mark will show you the video as this individual attempts to redefine football. In fact, when I watched him, he really is like I call it Sega. If you create a Madden character for yourself and make yourself bigger, stronger, and faster than you should be for the position, you have Jalen Brewster. That's a tease. Bill, your thoughts?
Well, but first, before I get to that, a few of the things you said reminded me of a recruiting person, a person that was very well versed in the world of recruiting, college football recruiting, told me a number of years ago, and he voiced this to Ohio State as well. Don't bother recruiting kids that their families don't have the wherewithal to make a long trip to Ohio State to see their kids play, because they want to see their kids play. And if they can't do that financially, you're kind of wasting your time recruiting those kids. Well, things have certainly changed in that regard.
For sure.
With the NIL and everything else, they can get there now if they need to, the top players and their families and all that. So that's a little bit different, but that just reminded me of that as you were talking there, Dan. As far as Jalen Brewster, oh my goodness. As I think you're going to see on Mark's video, this is a guy that's playing in the backfield. And I don't mean because he's on the defensive line getting into the backfield. I mean, he's playing in the backfield as a running back, fullback. He's playing defensive end. He's a true defensive tackle. He's 6'3", 305 pounds. And again, he's able to play on the edge and in the backfield. Just, kind of a unicorn in some ways. There's a reason he's the number one defensive lineman in the country in 247 Sports 2027 rankings. He's that good. And I spent a decent amount of time, talking to his dad when Jalen and his dad were at the Ohio State camp. Absolutely legit interest in Ohio State there. I think it's too early to name any favorites, but I will say that he's got all the offers, and Ohio State is a legit school on his list right now.
So, Mark, in recruiting, there's certain, not guarantees, but promises made to people that may be a tad askew. Like Bill said about travel, I think that's covered now in the first 15 minutes of the conversation, and really is a box check. That's not going to be that. Your ability to get to the games and your family will not keep Ohio State from getting you at this point, and it may have back in the day. Another thing is they will offer guys, hey, Caleb Downs, maybe we'll play you on offense a little bit. I'm not kidding when I say this. you could go to Jalen Brewster and said, hey, because he's done this, we will put in a goal line or red zone Wildcat QB package for you, and we will run that when you get here. And you would not give up any competitive advantage if you did that. I have never seen that before. So, like we showed you video last week of the original werewolf, Jordan Hicks. I think that was 14 years ago because he retired after 10 years, and I can do math, sort of. And he was from Ohio. I have and so we've been watching Mark's tape and the most video of I've never seen a Wildcat quarterback this big. I have, like everyone else, seen the video of like the 13-year-old, 250-pound guy running down the field and everyone jumps on him. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a guy who plays wild. So let's just get to the tape, Mark, and you can take it away here. This Bill used the perfect term, and that's unicorn. It's like generational talent and unicorn are overused. Neither is not applied correctly here. So Bill, Mark, please take it away.
Okay, you guys did a good job of telling everyone what we're about to see, and
look at this.
I kind of knew it on cue that hey, let's put the Wildcat stuff at the beginning. And as much as we're excited about this, he's a tailback here, so he's a backfield presence. And boy, you know, my comparison to him was Cameron Hayward at defensive end, and then I remembered Hayward's dad was Craig Ironhead Hayward, who was probably like a 230-pound tailback for the Saints. So this kind of reminds you of that. You know, William the Refrigerator Perry would take a handoff and run straight line as hard as he could into a line of men, and he'd make something happen there. Brewster's got a little more wiggle and jiggle for a 300-pounder. But what we're really here to see is his presence on the defensive line, where his lateral quickness is what you're getting out of this 300-pounder. He really does a good job. I mean, to stretch a sweep there to the sidelines, and you saw him run one down to the sidelines earlier. He shows off some really freakish ability for a defensive tackle. And let's make no bones about it. He's headed to defensive tackle. May make a pit stop at defensive end in the right look or the right defense. That's why I said, you know, Cam Hayward in that Pittsburgh 3-4, this could be your 3-4 defensive end. And, you know, we have a Patricia who a 3-4 guy with the Patriots. You could see him use him in that role because he can, you know, slant and angle and blow gaps that would give him a nice advantage out there. But with the power off the edge, and I know Dan usually shuts these off because it'll be premium here, but you don't want to show every play on defense. But this is one of those players where as Bucknuts, Bill, we're going to be excited about for a while. We're going to be rooting for him to be a Buckeye because he has a fun highlight film coming out of high school. And for whatever reason, message board people really dig into these type of films and these type of players and want them to be a part of their program. I think if you had to offer that kid a play at the goal line, you know, to kind of put a little cherry on top of the recruiting package, like Dan said, you could probably do that. Now, would it be against Western Michigan and Purdue you'd run it?
That's
probably.
fine.
And if it worked, would you bring it out against bigger people? Okay, I see the blueprint, but yeah, I think as a recruiting ploy, that's a nice little thing to tuck into his hat. He's a bold, yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah, it is really cool. Like you said, Dan, when you see that in middle school, a big kid running down there, it's kind of like, well, this is, you know, a little gimmicky and novelty here. You do it in high school like that, it's a little more. There's a little more oomph to it, let's say.
So we did Craig Ironhead Hayward a disservice there. He said he's 230. 5'11", 260.
There we go.
Ironhead, what's with this thingy? Anyone remembers that? Some people remember that. He did the soap commercial. Here's another guy. Cam Hayward, he may make the Hall of Fame. Dave Biddle and I had an off the not on air conversation about this the other day, that Cam Hayward is probably going to make the Hall of Fame. He's going to have a chance. Do you know what Cam Hayward's career earnings are? Take a shot. $131 million.
I mean, he's been the staple to the Pittsburgh defense for a while. I mean, like a building block guy that whenever they're on TV, yeah, they talk about him. If he's missing or ever dinged, it's like, oh my gosh. But like most defensive linemen, doesn't get the household notoriety that he probably should.
Tell you what, though, he's going to be a one-team guy. He's going to be able to open up a car dealership in Pittsburgh and sit back and be rich beyond. He's already rich beyond my wildest. $131 million. He's like an NBA player. All right, we digress there at the end. Let's see if there are any questions here. How much time? We got a few. Let's see if we can answer a few questions. And yes, I want to define what OKG means. And I said that yesterday, and I'll use Sanchez as an example. OKG is not my term. I stole it from Gonzaga basketball. It means our kind of guy, meaning that person a prospect who checks every single box. And so I've used Devin Sanchez as this. Devin Sanchez is just as good as anyone they've ever recruited. He committed. There was no chatter. He was here. He was planning on coming here. They completely invested in him. Did he hold out for the absolute top dollar? No. Is he invested in his future because he wants to be a great NFL player? Yes. So that, to me, is going to make up the top part of Ohio State's recruiting class going forward. You've clear. We don't complain about quarterback or wide receiver here like everyone else does because we're done there. And I think it's been made pretty clear that they're going to load up on young offensive linemen that they can develop and then pick and choose their OKGs to fill it out, then use the transfer portal. So that's what OKGs mean. And Devin Sanchez defines OKG to me. 100% on board. The parents never gave him any trouble. It was just like, they want to be here. They want him here. Move on. We didn't have any waffle talk or any of that. So you can only get so many guys in every class like that. They'll build around those guys and go from there.
And at a position that was loaded where you would think there would be trepidation, like, wow, he's really just stepping right into this lineage of guys, isn't worried about, when and where he plays, going to go compete and let things fall where they may. Recruit other guys, put that into that. Immediately says, okay, I'll help you recruit. I'll bring in other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, that's a good way to say it. Like our kind of guy that, yeah, he could come sit in the staff room with us for a few hours. We could tell him a few secrets about things, and he's going to help us out. And I really like that type of feel for a recruit.
Yeah, and just to be fair, I did not make that term up. I got it from Gonzaga basketball. I think the guy who now head coach at Arizona came from Gonzaga and uses the term a lot. It's just an easy way to hang it up there. All right, there's one question from Mika. What would a pod be without it? I heard Henry Perrimon has gotten bigger. Any thoughts? The hope is Cleveland Heights does well this season. Marcus?
Yeah, he's going to need a big senior year. His offer list blew up over the summer. I think, as Mika said earlier, he did get bigger. He was only listed at 145 or 150 pounds coming out of like sophomore, junior year. Definitely has the Cleveland pedigree and the people behind him up there pushing him. But I think senior tape is where he'll be decided. I think we have a handful of kids now that just didn't do enough this summer. I mean, he was largely a MAC prospect, and then he started picking up Maryland, Michigan State, a few others. So he's kind of edged out of that territory. But as an Ohio State national corner, he's got to put it on tape because his junior tape wasn't Ohio State national type tape.
And if anybody doesn't know, he is at Cleveland Heights. He's a defensive back, cornerback, 2026. So that's a little bit of additional background on Henry Perrimon.
Homie linebacker. Hope Big Ken comes home to be the D-line coach when he retires from the NFL. Dave and I discussed that. Obviously, I have no inside info on that, but you want to talk about someone who'd be ready for it. Guys who've been with one – I mean, he's basically an assistant coach on the Steelers now. And when the Steelers need to make a public comment, when the Aaron Rodgers thing, who came out to – you can't get a better player for your team. Cam Hayward is the ultimate draft pick. I mean, it's just the ultimate draft pick. Richie Dubs. That strategy isn't sustainable. Sanchez family are exceptions to the rule. We'll find out. What I'm telling you is I think Ohio State is approaching it this way. And if they're proven wrong, we will find out. The thing is, they just won the national championship. So it's kind of hard to argue with their approach when it worked. So it may not work going forward. That may be unsustainable. But if it does work, I do think it's a pretty good priority. Good way to go about it. All right, one last question. Let's do it from here. Thoughts on this? Lincoln Riley isn't on the hot seat. I think they will have a good year. Bill and Mark, we will let you weigh in on that. And if not, is there another coach you think of off the top of your head that's in a bigger hot seat than old Lincoln? Bill, you want to take that first?
Well, I would agree right this minute. Lincoln Riley is not necessarily on the hot seat. The season hasn't started yet, and he's got a great recruiting class.
Yep.
He's got 31 commitments, I believe, right now, and it's an outstanding class, and they haven't played a game yet. But if the season does not go well, and if some recruits decide they're not going to take the package and ideal all that, and they're going to go elsewhere, and they lose 5 or 6 games, and the defense looks terrible again, then all bets are off in my mind. Again, though, I don't, he's got a heck of a buyout, and USC is, I agree with their strategy in that it's easier to get recruits in than try to pay off that buyout. So we'll see what happens this season. I don't necessarily think the season is going down in flames for them. They haven't even played their first game yet. Let's see what happens.
Mark, assistant coaches often call you when they need a job. Has anyone been from a staff called you and said they're worried about their future?
It's Bill said it's too early. Everybody's still in there drinking the Kool-Aid of optimism. We're going to cure cancer this year. Even if our team has cancer, we're going to be the staff that can do it. And I don't think you should have a job unless you're positive thinking like that at this point in the year. And I was on some pretty bad teams in college. I mean, I was 49-1 in 5 years. So we had some years. And I used to remember thinking sometimes the positivity in the preseason from the coaches, like they're really thinking we're going to do it this year. Like they really – I think they think we got some new players or something's going to change. But I remember every year there was always optimism, and it was needed. I mean, you really – so with that being said, there's coaches that aren't admitting they're on the hot seat that are. I think 2 of the closest to my house are Ken and Akron. They've had rough seasons in the MAC, and they need to win, and they need to win now. But I think that's irrelevant to this podcast. My other answer would be Michigan. Michigan may be on the hot seat. Like if that program doesn't go where it's supposed to go, I could see that switch being made there. It did. I don't know. It felt like Sharon Moore was like a Band-Aid or a reward for winning that game that year, and he's got to probably do something to make his own name. I think we kept him around for another year because he beat us. Maybe if he doesn't beat us last year, he wouldn't be there. But if that Michigan thing does blow up, that whole staff could blow up, and they could restart that. So that might be one that's, kind of on the edge. But it's really hard in the preseason because of the optimism. Lincoln Riley will be on the hot seat if he loses a game or two. But like you said, they just invested in the team, and they had their chance probably to dump him.
They are at 32. I think I said 31 commitments. It's actually 32 commitments.
Did they get one since the show started? What happened? They got a commitment since we started, Bill? What's going on up there? They're adding them that quickly? They're on West Coast time? That's quick.
Yeah. Well, they are at 32, and they do have the number 2 class in the country, and they spent a lot of money on recruiting.
If you spent all your time on this podcast and made it to the 44-minute mark, you are a true Bucknutter, and we appreciate your patronage. Be back on Thursday with these guys. I'll be back tomorrow filling in for Dave with the People's Champ, so stick around. Have a good